Once you get to the Zoom website, go to the top right corner and click on Sign In. Then scroll down and click on Sign In with Google. You're going to choose your SAUSD Learns email. And then on the left-hand side, choose Settings. So as I scroll down, on the right-hand side, we're going to be looking for settings that say Modified. These are the settings that I have changed from the default settings. And these are the settings that I'm going to be asking you to change, or at least consider changing. So the first one that we're looking at here is the waiting room. I highly recommend, as does Zoom, that you enable the waiting room. This is the primary way that you're going to secure your classroom and make sure that you don't have people coming into the classroom that don't belong there. So go ahead and enable the waiting room if that's what you have chosen to do. Next, we're scrolling down to the participants video. By default, this is off. As a school, we have chosen to ask our students to turn their cameras on at the beginning of the class. After that, it is the teacher's discretion to decide whether they want their cameras on or off. However, we first want to make sure that the student that we believe is on the other end of that camera is in fact the student who should be at the other end of that camera. And then again, it's up to the teacher's discretion whether the students need to leave that camera on or off. And later in the training, we'll talk about privacy concerns, especially if you are recording your class. Okay, so go ahead and toggle that on as your default setting. That way the participants video will default to turn on at the beginning of meetings. Scrolling down, mute participants upon entry. You can set this every time in your meetings. However, I found that when I tried to set it in my meetings exclusively, it did not actually function properly. Even though I had it set to mute participants upon entry, they did not actually mute upon entry when I set it only in the meeting settings. So set it here so that it actually works. And then you can turn it off in the meeting settings if you want to. But go ahead and turn it on here so that your meeting doesn't get interrupted by students who are coming into the meeting. Scrolling down, private chat. If you have private chat on, students can send messages to other individual participants without you or anyone else in the meeting knowing. And this is just a serious opportunity for bullying to happen during your class and just side conversations that need not happen during class time. So go ahead and turn that off. Auto-saving chats. This setting will save you so much headache. I kept getting to the end of classes last year and needing to leave for an appointment or needing to just get to my next Zoom or take a quick break before my next Zoom, and I would turn off my Zoom and realize I hadn't saved my chat, and I wanted to save my chat either for attendance purposes or for giving students credit, and I was so frustrated because I had not saved the chat. So I was so happy to discover this setting, turn on autosave chats, and then you will never forget to save a chat because it will automatically save the file for you. And if you have an extra file or 25, it really doesn't matter because you can delete the extra files, but you will never be missing a file because they will all be there. So go ahead and turn on auto-saving chats. Sound notification when someone joins or leaves. This is super handy because it's easy when you are focused on controlling your class and keeping the flow going and trying to keep your students engaged over distance learning especially, to not notice that you have someone who has just joined and is sitting in the waiting room. So go ahead and make sure that the sound notifications are on. I like it to be on for host and co-host only, but if you want everyone to hear that so that the kids are aware that they are heard when they join or leave, that's fine too. Go ahead and set that setting, and let's scroll down. File transfer. This one is a big one for security, for Zoom bombers and preventing any potential damage from Zoom bombers. So go ahead and toggle that off. If you have it on, then people can post memes, images, files straight into the chat, and that means that those images are visible as soon as they're posted into the chat. So it's not like a link that someone has to follow to see the images. The images would be visible immediately. So if someone were to, say, post pornography because they thought that was hilarious to post in a middle school classroom, that would be visible immediately to your students. So if you turn file transfer off, that can't happen in your classroom. Unfortunately, that also means that you can't post files straight into your chat. But of course, you have the screen where you can show images if you want to show images. And you also can post files if you want to share them with your students in your Google Classroom or in your Canvas classroom. And you can post links to files in the chat. Continuing down our list, screen sharing. I do want my kids to screen share, and this is a feature that I use regularly. If it's not a feature that you are going to use regularly, having your students share screens, then maybe you want to turn this off, so that, or maybe you want to turn it to host only so that only you are sharing your screen until it's a time maybe when you're doing presentations, and then you can come back here and turn it to all participants. I use it a lot, so I want to leave it where all participants can share the screen, and then every time I come into a meeting, I have to remember to change it for the duration of that meeting to host only until I want students to share, and then I change it to where the students can share. I do like to leave it who can start sharing when someone else is sharing, host only. I don't want students interrupting each other or interrupting me with screen sharing. I assume that most of them would only do that accidentally, but stuff happens, so I leave that as host only. Scrolling down. Annotation, whiteboard, and remote control. All three of these settings affect what participants can do on shared content. So can they annotate what is seen on a shared screen? So if I'm sharing my screen, can the participants draw on that and say circle words on the screen that I'm sharing? Or can they solve a math problem that I have written on the whiteboard? Can they write on the graph that I have drawn or pasted onto the whiteboard? Do I allow participants to control what I am sharing on the screen with remote control? I have not reached the comfort level with my Zooms yet where I am allowing students that kind of control with my Zooms. I hope to get to that point sometime in the near future, but since I'm not there yet and I'm not using those features, I have them turned off. If these are features that you want to use regularly in your classroom, then by all means, turn them on. Maybe you want to use the whiteboard on a regular basis, then turn that on, of course. Maybe you are going to use annotation, screen annotation with your students all the time, then turn that on, of course. These are not things that you're going to use all the time, then have them off. Not only is it great for your sanity during class, but it also means that you're less likely to give Zoom bombers a chance to take control of your meeting and do nefarious things. I watched a video of a Zoom bomber using the annotation tool to draw male anatomy on the screen during a class. Not really the best. And obviously having someone remote control your computer during class would not be great. So if you're not going to actually be using these features, it doesn't make sense to have them on. Last year, I had a not so fun experience because I had put my heart and soul into creating Zoom virtual field trips that incorporated my science content, and I tried to make them super fun, and I had kids drawing on my screen, except I didn't know that that was what was going on because I thought it was me making some sort of a mistake with my mouse and scribbling on the screen. I didn't understand how it was happening, and these scribbles would appear, and then someone got really bold and started doing tic-tac-toe on the screen, which I knew was not me doing it accidentally. That would have been really hard to do accidentally, at which point I figured out that it was someone else. So then I went hunting for a setting, found the annotation setting. Unfortunately, I found it in the meeting setting, which I had to set every single time, which was annoying. And then when I found out you could set it here and just set it and forget it, it was amazing. So that's my recommendation. Save your sanity if you're not using it. Set it here. Works great for middle schoolers and more secure for preventing Zoom bombing attacks. Scrolling down. Last setting, the breakout room. Da, 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 da. Enable that here. Even if you're not ready to use breakout rooms just yet, go ahead and enable it. Nothing will explode if you enable breakout rooms. Students will not suddenly be sent to breakout rooms unless you intend to send them there. What will happen is you will have a new button at the bottom of your control panel that will allow you, when you are ready and when you want to create breakout rooms. Until you enable them here, you won't even have that option. So go ahead and enable that option, and then we're done with settings. Isn't that exciting? So now let's do something fun. Scroll up to the top, and on the left-hand side, click on Profile. We're going to change our profile picture. This is why I said, for those of you who are coming to my live training, I said bring a picture that you want to use. So underneath here, if you just have a letter because you haven't put a picture there yet, click on Change, and then you're going to click on Upload. And then choose the picture that you brought. And then you can move this square around. You can use the corners to change the size of the picture. And once you have the picture cropped the way you want it, you just press Save. And then you should see the picture here. You should see it up in the corner. And when you don't have your video camera on, this is what participants will see. So now you're all set up to Zoom with middle schoolers.